Monica, après vous. Après moi, plutôt.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are well today. And welcome back, Linda. Good to see you. And before I start, I had to say hello to somebody who is here for the first time to the briefing room. Our colleague, our new colleague to our Anka family, Azad Issa. Azad Issa is from the Middle East Eye and is joining today to our briefing. So welcome. This morning, the President of the General Assembly has answered questions from young people from around the world through a live Twitter session during the interactive dialogue on youth, peace, and security. The event under the theme Youth Empowered, Included, and Equal is taking place in the Trusteeship Council. Youth, peace, and security is one of the 7 priorities of the PGA's agenda. Mrs. Espinosa believes that young people play a crucial role in achieving the Agenda 2030. The event, which is organized by ECOSOC, is gathering ministers of state, representatives of youth organizations, and high-level speakers. They are debating investment in youth development, financing, and other means of implementation. The world has today over 1.8 billion young people. In her interaction with participants, Ms. María Fernanda Espinosa is addressing issues such as the inclusion of indigenous youth in decision-making processes, the role of young people in peacebuilding and post-conflict societies, and how their voices can be heard and respected. The hashtag for this is Youth for Peace. And the President of the General Assembly will convene tomorrow, 10th of April, a high-level meeting to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the establishment of the International Labour Organization, ILO. This will be followed by a high-level meeting on the GA on the future of work. In a note to member states, Mrs. Espinosa stressed that ILO was created on the realization that clear rules were needed to ensure that economic progress went hand in hand with social justice, prosperity, and peace for all. Such principles remain fundamental today as new forces driven by technology advancements, changing demographics, globalization, and climate change rapidly reshape the world of work. The PGA also stresses that women continue to bear the brunt of unpaid care and domestic work. Globally, women continue to be paid an average of 20% less than men to do the same job. Young people are also affected, with more than 64 million unemployed youth worldwide and 145 million young workers living in poverty. The high-level meeting will be attended by several state ministers, the Director General of ILO, Mr. Guy Ryder, representatives of labor organizations, the private sector, youth, academia, civil society, and other guests. Due to a large list of speakers, the meeting will be also concluded on 11th of April. And now, a last note for you. Tomorrow, 10th of April, Mrs. Espinosa and the Director General of the ILO will be here, Mr. Guy Ryder, at 12:30, as staff just said, for a joint press conference on the high-level meeting on the future of work. So all ANCA correspondents are invited, and our colleagues from the webcast will cover it as well. And we will start at 12:30 with short opening remarks and dedicate most of the time to your questions. By the way, questions, if you have any, I'm here. Okay, Oscar, go ahead. Okay, Masood.
Yes, Monica. Do you have any reaction from the PGA on the situation in Venezuela when Venezuela is officially a country with humanitarian crisis? And now tomorrow we have a Security Council meeting on the humanitarian crisis in Venezuela. Now, you have any new reaction coming from the PGA?
This is correct. I think the meeting at the Security Council will be followed by the PGA, as by all of us here. The situation, her position hasn't changed at all. She is urging all parties in Venezuela to engage in a constructive dialogue, to engage in a path to lead to the solution of this crisis. And what she said in the beginning, she stands by it that the Venezuelans who are suffering under this crisis, which has been imposed on them, need a solution that will benefit the well-being of all Venezuelans, and that's what she has been calling and asking for. And even if we haven't talked about Venezuela for a while, the PGA is closely following the situation, and tomorrow is a good opportunity for all of us to hear more about it. Thank you. Masood and then Ibis. Okay, Masood, go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Monica. My question is a simple one. Does the PGA has any opinion about the situation that exists in Indian-occupied Kashmir, where the Pakistani Prime Minister has been making a statement that India wants to annex the so-called occupied Kashmir? Does she have any opinion on that situation?
I am not familiar with these comments, Masood, and as we are not commenting on the comments, as you just asked. But we will recall that Mrs. Espinosa visited both countries, and when we had actually a few weeks ago tension in the region, she asked for calm, and she asked for constructive dialogue. But on your particular question today, I don't have any comments on this. But thank you. Ibis, go ahead. And then Linda. Okay.
Thank you. Could you please give more details about the impression of the PGA in her visit in Cuba?
Sure. You know that she visited Cuba, and before traveling to Cuba, she was actually also in Mexico, where she concluded a very successful trip. Mrs. Espinosa in Cuba met with the president, with ministers, with other representatives of the United Nations as well, where she had the opportunity to follow the work that the UN is doing in cooperation with the country. She left Cuba very hopeful for the conversations that she had in regard with the conversations and also the strengthening of multilateralism. This is one of the topics that have been discussed there. And as a matter of fact, I spoke to her this morning in our daily briefing, and she was telling me how happy and very satisfied she is with the both trips to Mexico and to Cuba. They went very successful. But thank you very much. Okay, I have Linda, and then Joe. Linda, go ahead.
Thank you, Monica. I just had a quick question about the PGA in Venezuela. Given, obviously, her concern about it, I was wondering if she personally has had any contacts with the permanent representative of Venezuela here in New York.
She is in contact with several parties in this particular issue, Linda. And not only here in New York, when she traveled, for instance, to Europe, she actually talked about it, and she is looking very closely into the Venezuelan issue. Her appeal remains the same. I mean, although developments change, as we know, but her appeal is very clear. She urges all parties to engage in a dialogue that will lead to a solution, because as time goes by, Venezuelans are suffering. We are talking, when we say Venezuelans, we are talking here about women, about men, about children, about young people, elderly people who are in need of help, of assistance. And as long as this crisis continues, they will not be helped and not get the assistance that they need. Thank you. Joe?
Yes, during her visit to Cuba, what, if any, discussion did the PGA have with the various government officials, including the president of Cuba that she met with, on Cuba's human rights record? And also, what role Cuba could play constructively in connection with the crisis in Venezuela? Cuba is involved in supporting the Maduro government very heavily with intelligence support and so forth, but did any any of this come up in her discussions during her visit?
I think the PJ, the most important point taken from her trip to Cuba was actually the strengthening of multilateralism and how cooperation among countries can help in solving global challenges today. In regard with countries and regions participating and contributing to the dialogue and the solution in Venezuela, I think the PJ before praised the role of CARICOM. They had a meeting here. We reported on this meeting with the PJ and other countries which are having a positive role, playing a positive role in contributing to a solution that the PJ has been calling. And that we want to see in order to assist and in order to benefit all Venezuelans at this very difficult time. I'll thank you for your presence here and welcome again. And I will see you tomorrow, but the PJ will be here, so I won't say anything. I will moderate your questions. And thank you very much. See you.